This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV Profit.
Hello and welcome to Heads Up on NDTV Profit this Thursday morning. There's a lot happening across the globe and domestically here as well. Lots of news development over the night. We're going to talk about all of that right now. The headlines first. Asian markets trade weak this morning and US equities faltered on Wednesday, pulled down by a fall in US technology stocks and economic worries. The Indian government's fisc could be in a disarray as several key fiscal targets have been missed during the quarter. We get to you the details ahead. An exclusive interview to NDTV Profit. Outgoing CEO and co-founder of Infosys, Chris Gopalakrishnan, says that he expects delay in IT spending due to the macroeconomic uncertainty. And Anna Hazare agrees to move out of Tihar jail after Delhi police backs off in a midnight meeting with his advisors. Anna will continue his fast at LEELA grounds starting today. We start off with a check of the Asian markets, and right now you have most of the Asian markets declining a little bit with 0.5% cut on the benchmark Nikkei index. That's trading at 9,015. Kospi is trading down 1%. Taiwanese markets and the KLSE, both of them have a slight negative downtake to them. The Hang Seng or the Chinese markets haven't opened up for trade, but we will check in on those markets once they do. But when we talk about US stocks, they've declined, wiping out an earlier advance, pulled down by a fall in US technology stocks, particularly when the world's second largest PC maker, Dell, slashes its full year revenue forecast. Then that's something that the markets do take notice of. Dell closed off more than 10%. Stocks have reversed earlier gains on investors' speculation also that the Fed may not consider another economic stimulus program to avert a recession. Then you have the US dollar dropping across the board, hurt by sharp losses versus the franc, which strengthened even after the Swiss National Bank announced a series of measures to halt the currency's steady appreciation. The dollar has actually fallen versus a basket of major currencies. Meanwhile, oil prices have jumped above $111 per barrel. That's the highest in almost 2 weeks on the back of a larger than expected decline in US gasoline supplies. So that's the global picture out there this morning. With that away out of the picture, now let's shift focus back to the Indian markets and the triggers for trade, the levels to watch out for. Ashu Sharma joins in with all those details. Good morning, Ashu.
Good morning, Bianca. This is perhaps not a very good time for the equity markets. It's not only about the headwinds that we're witnessing on the US and European front, on the domestic front as well. The government and the kind of mess that it's finding itself in, perhaps it is not sending right signals as far as the FI investing community is concerned. That's a kind of that's a rhetoric we're actually picking up when we talk to traders, when we talk to investors. Otherwise, watch out for upstream oil and gas stocks. There's been a big surge as far as crude oil is concerned, shot up quite a bit yesterday, almost at a 2-week high. So there could be some relief coming in for stocks like Reliance, ONGC, or even for some of the other stocks like Oil India. Barring that, well, this market could remain sluggish. Mid-caps, however, are a completely different story. Risk aversion has made sure that investors are not really jumping into the mid-cap picks. Whatever is happening on the large caps.
Right. Yesterday, in fact, Ashu, the IT pack did fairly well. The CNX IT index was up almost 1.8%. But today, like you mentioned, there might be a little bit of pressure on IT counters. We'll keep the focus going on that front. But the other counters, and we'll pick up specific stocks right now. Pankaj joins in to walk us through some of the stocks that will be moving on the back of news flow. Good morning, Pankaj. I guess you've picked up a couple of counters. Tell our viewers which those are.
But Bianca, let's first start with Hotel LEELA. They have announced a sale of their Kerala property for about 500 crores and they would be reducing their debt via this amount. They have debt of about 3,700, 800 odd crores on the book. So that would be reduced by about 500 crores, and that's the plan that LEELA management has. And they've taken a step ahead and they have sold one of their properties in Kerala. 5-9% they've picked up stake from open market. Some of the reports suggest that after the new takeover code, they may be looking to go up to about 25% in the company. So idea on the back of one of the old investor increasing stake could be in focus.
Thanks so very much for the details on those counters. Pankaj, we'll watch out for how the stocks react today. Besides what Pankaj has flagged off and also the levels that Ashu has flagged off for us, there will be a couple of other events that we will watch out for. Infosys is one counter that we are going to be watching out for because today Infosys is holding an analyst meeting in Bangalore, in its Bangalore campus. The meeting is also going to be webcast on the company's website, so that's something we'll get you details of. Today is also going to be the last day of the Brooks Laboratories IPO, so we're going to keep a track of the subscription levels for that IPO. Besides that, quarterly results are just about trickling in. A couple of them wanted to go. There's GTL and Ballarpur Industries, which will be unveiling their quarterly results, and then there's the NCD issue of Manappuram Finance, which opens today, closes on the September 5th. There are some global indicators as well that we will be watching out for. There's the leading economic index for the month of June that should be out in Japan sometime now, and we'll watch out for those figures as well. From the US front, from Wall Street, there are a couple of other important economic data as well, particularly weekly jobless claims, consumer price index, and existing home sales data for the month of July. So all that is going to be on tap here on the channel. Right now, a short break. On the other side, we get to you the details of the Indian government's fiscal situation, which seems to be in a bit of a disarray. What are the details? That's coming up right after this break. Staying on. More indications coming in that the Indian economy is starting to slip. A government report on the first quarter of this fiscal talks about missing several key fiscal targets, and what's worse is the fact that the government is unlikely to see any more windfall gains like the one it did from the sale of 3G spectrum last year. So basically, the many avenues to plug those gaps, those fiscal gaps, they are also narrowing. Sapna Das is joining in with more details on this story. Sapna, good morning. Government finances on a slippery note?
Yes, well, the Q1 picture doesn't look very good, though of course we are in the middle of the second quarter. However, that does not mean that whatever the economy has experienced in the first quarter, that has really gone away. There is no magic wand with the government, and we really don't know what are the new instruments or the new mechanisms that they have thought about in terms of additional revenue generation for this current fiscal. Hence, going on to the Q1 numbers very quickly, the key deficit indicators are higher in terms of, say, your revenue deficit or the cross fiscal deficit. Also, the worry point is that the revenue collections, the pace of growth is lower than last fiscal. If you talk about the gross tax collection, well, the overall growth number is around 7%. The government's total debt, public debt has increased by almost 6% in the current financial first quarter. The bond yields have hardened by over 30 basis points, and of course the reasons for that are the fact that inflation rate hikes and the fuel price hike that has happened in the first quarter of the current financial.
Sapna, thanks very much for the details. The government is battling way too much here, be it corruption or be it a slipping fiscal situation. So seems to be in a tough spot, the Indian government. Okay, outgoing CEO and co-founder of Infosys, Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan, he says that the last 4 years have been the most challenging period in his 30-year stint. He hands over the CEO reins to ST Shibulal on the coming Sunday, that's the 21st of August. In an exclusive interview to NDTV Profit, he says that the impact of the current economic environment can be managed, but he does expect delays in IT spending.
So first of all, the crisis is slightly different because businesses globally are in a better position. They have cash in their balance sheet, their balance sheets are stronger, they're profitable, and they're growing. So in that sense, the business part of the global economy is actually in a better position. So clearly the last 4 years have been quite challenging because I'm the CEO, and the global economy went through a very difficult period, the downturn of 2008, and so the expectation is very high, and you have an opportunity actually to demonstrate that you can deliver, but then the environment is challenging. So in that sense, this has been a very challenging period.
The entire conversation with Chris Gopalakrishnan, you'll get to hear that on NDTV Profit tonight at 7:30 p.m, followed by a repeat once again at 10:30. Jet Airways and Kingfisher Airlines had announced an alliance in 2008, but then a frequent flyer had gone ahead and filed a complaint alleging that these two companies were using their dominant market position in an anti-competitive manner. Examining those charges, the competition watchdog, which is Competition Commission of India, has said that it has found no evidence to suggest that it is a possible abuse of the dominant position in the alliance. Faizan joins in right now with more details on that story. Good morning, Faizan. This is good news for Jet and Kingfisher, but in what way?
Absolutely. After 3 years of legal fight, the Competition Commission of India has given a clean chit to both the Jet Airways and Kingfisher Airlines on their possible strategic alliance, which was announced way back in 2008. The CCI has found no competition issue in the strategic alliance that has been announced by both airlines. And the order clearly mentions that no violation of either Section 3 or either Section 4 is found to have been established in this case. Both the airlines were entering into a cartel over trying to determine fares. So none of the allegations have been proved by the investigation which was done by the CCI.
Right. Faizan, thanks very much for details on the Jet and Kingfisher Alliance and the clean sheet coming in from the Competition Commission of India. Moving on now, in a late night breakthrough, the deadlock between Anna Hazare and Delhi police, it's over now about the duration of his anti-corruption protest. Anna Hazare has accepted the offer of 14 days of hunger strike beginning today at the LEELA Maidan. The breakthrough came on after a near 30-minute meeting between Hazare aides Kiran Bedi, Prashant Bhushan, Manish Sisodia and Arvind Kejriwal with the Delhi Police Commissioner, Mr. B.K. Gupta. Anna Hazare's supporters poured in through the night at Tihar Jail. It was a scene like never seen before, candlelight vigils, slogans and people coming in with the tricolour. It was a scene of jubilation. But well past midnight, we've seen Anna Hazare's associates and the Delhi Police Commissioner ironing out differences over the duration of Hazare's protest for a strong Lokpal. The police has now extended the number of days of protest from 7 to 21. Kejriwal, who was staying with Hazare at Tihar even after his release from custody, Mr. Bhushan, Bedi and Manish Sisodia, they drove from the prison where they were holding a series of meetings with Hazare to meet the police officials, and after the brief meeting, all four of them, they went back to Tihar jail to brief Anna about the talks that they've had with the police commissioner. Alok Pandey joins in right now live from outside Tihar jail. Good morning, Alok. After the news that Anna has agreed to the Delhi police's conditions late last night, what is the mood among his supporters there?
Well, the mood is similar to what it has been over the last 24 hours or so. There are slogan shouting supporters here. There are people who've come here since early in the morning. They're all waiting here in anticipation of some kind of action. I'm just going to move aside and ask my camera person to show you some shots briefly. These people have been here since the night when we told them that Anna Hazare has sort of agreed to a 15-day fast. They all said that they were happy with that and they wanted to meet Anna Hazare as soon as he came out of jail. At the moment, there must be 100-odd people here at this particular gate, and there are many more gates at the Tihar jail who have all come here in the morning. Some of them are waving the national flag, some of them are shouting, some of them are raising slogans in favor of Anna Hazare.
Thanks very much for the quick update, Alok. Developments will keep happening, of course, through the day, and we'll keep all our viewers updated on that front. But here we'll take a short break on Heads Up. On the other side, we'll once again talk about global equity markets and about what has been happening with the commodity space and the currency space as well. Ketul Sakpara of EQ Investment will be joining in from the US. Welcome back to Heads Up on NDTV Profit. Deepening losses across Asian markets. The SGX Nifty right now trading with a 0.25% cut, trading at 5,057, and across the rest of Asia, the Japanese benchmark index has deepened its loss right now of 0.6%. Hang Seng has opened up with a 0.3% downtick. Chinese markets looking weak as well. 0.3% cut on both the Chinese indices right now. Most US stocks have also declined in Wednesday's trade, wiping out an earlier advance as Dell forecast weaker sales, and two Federal Reserve officials indicated a concern about the amount of stimulus that is being applied to the economy. Earlier gains in stocks were propelled by better than expected earnings at companies like Target Corp and Staples, but at the end of the day, you had 18 stocks falling for every 17 that rose on Wall Street. Dell, that company, fell 10% as slower spending on PCs and consumer technology seemed to have crimped its sales forecast. Meanwhile, there was a report that showed that wholesale costs in the US rose more than forecast in July. But let's get a little bit of perspective going. Ketul Sakparai, Associate Portfolio Manager with EQ Investments, joins in right now on the phone line. Ketul, thanks very much for joining in. Hi, this is Bianca. This 0.2% advance in the producer prices index followed by a 0.4% drop in the month of June. What significance does this have?
Hey, good morning, Bianca. The significance of that may be that as producer prices increase, that will affect the inflation. We are getting the core inflation number, CPI, tomorrow. I think that will further help us in understanding what inflation would be. But that adds pressure to the Fed policy, as in if inflation gets out of control, they cannot add additional stimulus to the economy. So I think that is one of the major concerns with increasing inflation and the CPI.
Ketul, some reports seem to indicate that President Obama plans to propose a mix of tax cuts and infrastructure spending that goes perhaps beyond the measures that he's already been promoting over the last several weeks. What are you hearing? That is the president likely to call for cuts beyond that $1.5 trillion that the super committee is supposed to trim by November?
Yes, I think that will be what the president will propose. However, the chances of that going through the Congress is extremely low. So I look at it in two formats. One format is where any spending cuts as well as new spending programs that have to go through the Congress. I think the chances of that happening right now are pretty close to zero. On the other side, there can be some spending and some infrastructure programs that can be taken care of without going through the Congress and just with the executive branch, which is the president, right? So I think the chances of that happening is higher. So those programs will not be a few $100 billion programs, but they'll be in the tens of billions, and I think those will take precedence, and they actually have a chance of getting implemented.
Okay. Ketul, a little away from Wall Street and what is happening across the world. Here in India, there's a big shadow of corruption on the Indian government at a time perhaps when we should be focusing on the economic reform agenda and perhaps aiming to drive down food prices. We're dealing with massive scams here. What is the view that Wall Street has taken of all of this? How is all this being read? Surely the world is watching.
Absolutely. I think the world is watching eagerly about what happens to the whole Anna Hazare situation in India. However, as long as the Congress government has a strong coalition support, it should not matter to the markets a whole lot. As of now, the major concern on everybody's mind is how does India contain inflation. I think that is on the top of the list, and everything else comes secondary to it.
Okay. Ketul, thanks so very much for your views. That's a wrap here on Heads Up on NDTV Profit as well, but we'll be back once again at 8 with opening news.